Hi, everyone. Today I have with me a very special guest who is extremely knowledgeable in the front of IT, digital transformations, and AI, something we're all keen to learn. This episode of Procurement Horizons, I have Peter Wanda, currently the Chief Data and Analytics Officer at Zurich Insurance. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Richard. Thanks for having me here.
Lovely to have you and talk to you about, some interesting topics. Peter has over 20 years of experience in leading and transforming organizations. He has a stellar track record in driving business growth through technology, data analytics, and AI strategies. We've had a chance to work together back in PNG, where we were working on the shared services rollout for indirect services, and that's how we got to meet. It was one of the most wonderful experiences working with somebody from a different background. I was out and out a supply chain person, and you were coming with an IT background. And that experience working with you, going through different plants in India, that was quite exceptional. I'm really grateful that I had that opportunity. And now, looking back at your career, Peter, it'll be good to know what have been some of the highlights of your journey, if you could share with us.
Absolutely. And it's actually a very good segue from the Indian adventures that we had towards my first highlight. My first highlight has been I was the captain of the Austrian cricket team, of the Austrian champion. It was a very interesting experience working with a team that consisted out of players from Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, Australia. So it was really multicultural. And while I played it just for fun, I loved cricket. I was never a superstar. I was a pretty good batsman. But what I learned there was really to live and work with very different cultures. And it all sounds similar, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, India, at least for lots of people in Western Europe. But if you ever on a cricket ground and see how they play, they are very competitive with each other. Language can be quite aggressive. So it was a great experience, and being successful there, also as a captain, later on was quite important for my career. I didn't know that at that point in time, but all my interviews I had, this became a big topic. Oh, you were a cricket player and you were captain of a team and you were successful. That was actually even more important than my straight A set at university. It's quite interesting. And later on, just to close out this part, I remember when I was with the chairman of Infosys, sitting I think it was in Ohio, it was in Cincinnati, waiting for our chief information officer coming to the meeting. We just switched on the television there, the computer, and watched a cricket game of his preferred game. So it was quite nice. Huh? So interesting to have that experience, and it helped also in connecting with lots of people in India quite nicely. So it was a good investment. I can recommend it. Huh? Now that was the fun part.
Yeah.
There was then also the next part, which is finding a job. And finding a job was quite interesting. I actually wanted to go to consulting and looked into multiple options there and applied for 10 companies. And one of them was P&G. I only realized a week before actually I went to the interview that P&G is producing toilet paper. And it's not one of the sexy, fancy consulting companies. So I was a bit disappointed, but I still went to the interview. And couple of interviews, actually 9 interviews afterwards, I had a contract with P&G and I had a job. I didn't even know it exists. I became a software designer and started in Germany my career, which was a dream job for me. I really loved it. I studied technical mathematics, and this really allowed me to be both technical as well as very close to the business. And that was kind of true for all my jobs in the future. Trying to be very good in technology data, but be equally good as my business partners on understanding the business. That was my aspiration. And I think that is something which not always worked out, but in many cases, and is part of the success or the reason for the success I had. That was
Wow.
basically the start. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, that was the beginning. Then, in terms of highlights, maybe 2 or 3, the biggest highlight for me was early on when I had my first team. And it was a big change. It was the beginning of a pattern that I love to make big changes. I never wanted to move into jobs that are very similar than a prior job. It was part of the excitement to learn something new, to avoid that you get into the comfort zone, to avoid that you think you know everything already. So I moved from the classic space of order shipping billing systems into manufacturing. I became the plant IT leader of the biggest baby care plant in Europe at that point in time. And that was a big move in many areas, moving from an office environment into manufacturing plant environment. That was a cultural change. And I loved it at the end, but it was a big step here. Lots of responsibility, working with a team that was well educated, but obviously they also knew what is the maximum hour of working time. So it was a very classical setup, and I learned a lot. I stayed there for over 4 years, and later was accountable for the whole space of Europe. But this was really the beginning of managing teams, and a lot of things I learned there from the plant manager. I got good coaching, good help, and I won't miss this. Well, not won't. I don't want to miss any of the experiences that I had there. Yeah.
I totally relate to that. Like manufacturing is a very unique experience in itself. For me also that was quite memorable. And I had almost forgotten, Peter, your connection with cricket. Remember, you had gone to see an IPL match when you were visiting. People don't know this, and this used to surprise almost everyone how much you loved Indian food. No matter which part of the country we went to, I think you surprised everyone with your spice tolerance.
Yeah,
Um,
it was a fun experience because in my job where you helped me so much, really in the shared service space, one of the responsibilities was canteen services in India. And of course, if I'm responsible for canteen services, I better eat at the canteen. But all the plant managers I visited, the first thing they proposed is let's go pizza eating. And I was saying, well, I'm not so sure how good the quality of pizza is in India, but I think the food will be pretty good. So I loved also the food in the canteens, and yeah, it was obviously it helped me to know the spices, the spice levels. But yeah, it was also like a bonus of the job to get exposed to some real Indian foods there.
Thanks for sharing some of those highlights. Very, very unique, all of them. Yeah.
The last one at P&G was really being accountable for the transformation of our SAP solutions end to end, moving it into the cloud, looking for digital transformation there. That was really a big thing, not easy, and we may talk a bit later about it. And then moving to Switzerland, starting at Zurich Insurance. And this is a big step. Moving from a consumer goods company into insurance company is not something that happens very often. And also, the industry is not that open for this type of changes. But fortunately, my boss was willing to take the risk and take me in, despite not having 20 years of insurance experience. And fortunately, I'm a fast learner, and till now, it works quite well for both sides.
Wow, you've caught us up with where you are right now and starting from your pre-university days and how you got into PNG. I can totally relate to that. Changing industries is not easy. I've done that a few times. And you kind of start from scratch, especially like if you are moving into a new country as well. So kudos to you on finding people who are willing to give you that chance. And I'm sure, like, you would have done wonders. And you're doing wonders, which we're going to get into in a stage where everybody in procurement is wanting to build on their digital. That's the space we're in procurement, and it's driving digital transformations, negotiating huge IT contracts, working on AI technologies. That's a reality of our job. So we'd like to ask somebody who's been on the other side of the table as a stakeholder. I would love to hear your experience, how you've managed some of these complicated transformation, and like what challenges did you have to overcome through that, and where, like, where there could have been synergies, where synergies you see with procurement, where procurement can support.
Yeah, let me start from the
It's a loaded
procurement.
question.
No, it's a very loaded question. So, and obviously, people that hear that should feel that I treat them well and fairly, which I do. I think the key point here is procurement and IT have to partner on many things when it comes to this digital transformation challenge. What not always is a given is that both sides understand enough from the work and role of the other side. What never works is if I'm the IT guy that doesn't want to know anything about procurement, just expects to get a template, fill something quickly in, hand it over, make the deal. That type of approach is not working. Yeah, maybe it gives a result, but it's never going to be the right result for the company and also not for yourself. Vice versa, the procurement person that comes in and says, I have no clue about your area, but here are the 3, 5 things that you need to put into the contract. Let me know when negotiation starts. And by the way, I need to get 5% discount in my scorecard. So make it happen. So you get the full spectrum of people focusing too much just on their role. And if it gets into negotiation with the vendor, it's so critical that I really understand quite a lot about what procurement tries to achieve, the principles, the tactics, the strategies. Even so procurement may lead that, I need to understand so I can play my role. And vice
Yeah.
versa, procurement needs to be willing to deep dive a bit on the technology side, because if I want to make a deal for a service, for a product, and I don't even understand what my IT guy wants to have there, what the customer wants to have, how can you negotiate? And that to me is true independent of what you're negotiating actually. Yeah? Unfortunately, in technology space, it's very dynamic. So procurement is more challenged there to be up to speed. The procurement space itself, I think it's a bit easier to understand from an IT person because it's not changing that much. Yeah? But the technology on the other side changes a lot, and I would say it's part of my responsibility to help procurement to be up to speed. It's not like go and take a couple of courses. Huh? That won't work. It's my role to enable, set up some sessions why this is important. And I think if you do that, it works very well. You have a strong partnership, and then you can split the roles in your negotiation,
Yeah.
regardless what it is. Is it a transformation project? Is it just a maintenance contract that you have? Is it something with innovation? That to me is the key ingredient. Try to understand 30-40% of the job of the other person, and then you can really work and team up much better than if you don't.
I'm smiling because it reminds me of your style when we worked together. This is what I enjoyed the most. Like you were really inclusive. You were even saying now you see it as your responsibility to help procurement understand technology, and that's so important. When we are coming in a lot of negotiations, you're coming in as an outsider. You don't know about technology as much as your stakeholder for sure. You bring procurement knowledge and how to structure deals, how to structure contracts, all of that. But I think, yes, marrying the two is so important. So, yeah, like there are kudos to leaders like you, who help. I remember when when we were working together, he asked me before we had even met for a whole lot of information. I don't know if you remember that, but I remember that was like the most amount of data I had gathered in my life until that time. Yes, I took up the challenge. I gathered everything. But after that, I feel like when we met, it was really easy. You were always willing to hear out the ideas. So that collaboration, it was something quite memorable.
And I
And
think part of that being easy is that you were always top of your game. So I really, whatever challenge was there, you were proactive, you took the lead. And yeah, in this type of environment, with this type of attitude, it's easy to partner. So really enjoyed the time. And again, thanks for the strong leadership in many areas here. Without that, some of the deals would have looked quite different.
yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, same here. I think so. Like, I used to think that, hey, I need to do everything and I need to be on top of my game. But over years, my thinking has changed a bit. I feel like environment contributes a lot to how we are and who we are in certain situations. So we can do our best. It's just the people around us who are helping us come up in a way that it's much bigger than us, and the kind of collaboration and the kind of transformations you see in those environments is very different.
I think it's also a matter of there's not a perfect formula. It depends a bit on which stage of your career you are, what is important in your life. Career is not the only thing for life. It always needs to fit together. And what's important is that you're always aware of the consequences of certain decisions that you do. If you are willing to take kind of the 15 hours day, you may have some impact in other areas in your life. Yeah? I think you need to be aware of it. Everything has its price. Maybe it's the right thing to do at some stage in the career, maybe not. Yeah? So I think it's important that people are aware of that and also have mentors, maybe even the line manager to talk about these choices to be made, because it's not something which you should do only in isolation. Talking with people, exchanging, getting some additional thoughts is key on this path here.
Yeah, and today I was hearing a very unique, like a very interesting perspective, and that was that you never face challenges with technology, even in technology implementation. The challenges come from people. It's always about managing people issues.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting statement. I believe there is a bit truth in that, but equally, you need to have in a company that wants to be competitive nowadays, you need to have also the right diverse leadership. It's okay to have people in the board that are a bit more conservative. They want to go for the safe options, but then you need to have counterparts there so that the dialogue, the discussion can happen. If you have people that are all wanting to play it safe, the company nowadays will miss some of the technology capabilities, will miss the transformation on the business process side it could do with the new capabilities. If you don't have the people that are a bit more conservative, you may rush it. You may go in a direction way too fast, and then a well working and well oiled business suddenly doesn't work anymore. That was a bit a challenge in P&G all the time. Whenever there was transformation, it was well structured globally. But still, if you make a big digital transformation across the whole SAP space, if the stuff doesn't work, a well-oiled machine that is delivering billions suddenly is not. That is not in the interest of the shareholder. So I
Yeah.
think there's always a balance to be made. And as a successful transformation leader, you need to find the right language and the right speed with your board to go forward. It can't be too slow, otherwise you don't get the value. It can't be too fast, because otherwise you will get too many obstacles thrown in on your way. Yeah? And that is part of the trick here. It's, even if you think it's the best project, it delivers the value, you still have to rely on your stakeholders to support it. And if you go too fast, they won't follow you. Yeah?
Yeah, that speed of execution varies. And you're right. I think so. Everybody wants to innovate, but not everybody is ready for what it takes to innovate. That's been my experience. Some industries are more conservative than the others. They are like shouting and trying to innovate, but it's so hard to change patterns and ways that have been set. A couple of years ago, the situation changed drastically when everybody started seeing and noticing what AI can do. And I think that is something that conversation is at the forefront. Everybody is planning about some kind of an AI strategy. So what are your thoughts there? What do organizations need to focus on to be at the forefront, but also like not just get caught up in a trend which may or may not work?
I think that's a pretty difficult question, because it's very different per industry. It's very different. If I start an industry that I nowadays know best, which is the insurance business, there's no way around using AI. AI has been used all the time. It has been used, the so-called machine learning, classic AI, has been used for fraud detection. It has been used for trend modeling. It has been used in many areas, but it was never that sexy. It was never that highlight. People didn't talk too much about it. What really changed with the emergence of Gen AI is that AI as a topic became public. Gen AI suddenly was something that everybody can use. The complex machine learning algorithm and models, only few experts can really use and understand. So therefore, it was never getting any traction in public. But now it was pretty simple. You type something in and you get some smart responses. That was amazing for people. And I think this is really what drove lots of emergence also of and energy to really look into AI in all industries even closer. In the insurance industry, we have a digital product. Our insurance policies are digital. So we have the luxury that we are not kind of having the issue like supply chain, where you still have a product. A physical product needs to be shipped. So yes, you can digitize a lot, but you can't beam the product around nowadays. It's not working yet, beaming. But for us in the insurance business, everything is digital. So you have really the big playing ground, a playing field for finding out what works. How can you drive efficiency? How can you drive effectiveness? How can you drive customer experience, which is the key topic for us at Zurich? Yeah? And you have all the digital data somewhere around. Yeah, you just need to find a way to collect it, to have it accessible, and then you start playing around and having ideas in which areas you can drive value. So at Zurich, Switzerland, the big benefit we had is we had a small group of believers already 3, 4 years ago. So these people were driving value in small projects, self-funded from somewhere, take 10,000 here, 50,000 there, and it was all internally done. And with this work, suddenly they were able to create quite some value. Yeah? Value that was brought to the bottom line. Initially 100,000, then 300,000. Then it grew and grew, and at some point in time, it got the attention of our CFO. And the CFO wanted to understand, is this real savings or just funny money that you are reporting here, Peter? And he's a great guy. I love working with him. And he realized it's real money. And he was extremely supportive. So my strategy I would recommend generally is make sure that your CFO is supporting you. If you're confident about your numbers and the savings, get him on your side. And you will have a powerful ally that is going to really help you. And then you do a bit of, how would I say it? It's basically, you make it competitive. You start with a section that is supportive, that is interest, and suddenly they deliver value. Suddenly their savings are higher. And then after 1, 2 years, lots of pull is coming. And suddenly AI is accepted, is seen as something that creates value, and it's more a matter of prioritizing it than anything else. So I think this bottom-up approach is working if you have the right people, the right talent, the right attitude, and if you have a bit of luck with your CFO as well. Because the challenge at the end is how to bring the value to the bottom line. There are many AI projects that deliver efficiencies, but they are not reflected in the books. They are not there. People are not willing to commit on those, and therefore the money is not there. And that's really a key challenge. It's true for any IT project. But in AI it's even more obvious because it is fairly easy to get the AI solutions in place. It's
Yeah.
much more difficult to integrate them in your core systems. So the integration into your core systems is the most costly part. And the last part is really to get the people to use it. And that is something where, again, because we are for 4 or 5 years already involved in AI with NLP solutions before, our people know about it. They are not afraid of it. They know that this is going to make them better, more impactful. It's like they get better classes and see now better. They're not afraid of losing their job because they know it's not about losing a job. It's about becoming more impactful and get rid of some of the admin work, which they anyway didn't like to do. And yeah, these are the kind of things.
Yeah, that sounds so interesting and unique. And I agree, it's very specific industry by industry. But thanks for sharing how it looks like in your space, because buying those AI tools is not the toughest thing, but integrating is, I can imagine, is not easy. And then training people and, yeah, like helping them get over their own fears around AI and seeing how it's adding value. I think that's the real journey. I haven't seen it explained so clearly before. I mean, I'm experiencing it, but I hadn't heard that portion. I'm also very curious, Peter. As a follow up, to understand what particular things do you enjoy doing with AI?
No, 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 no. Well, there are two ways to answer the question. So personally, I love using the Gen AI solutions for self-study and self-learning. It's pretty amazing. I still need to catch up with some of the insurance stuff. I still need to go into some of the pricing models that we have because I'm interested in that. And not everything is documented perfectly. But if I have a question, I can ask my AI friend, and I will get in 90% of the cases a good answer. The tricky part is you still need to have some understanding to validate what you get back.
Yeah.
But really, that's the way I like to using most. It's about augmenting me when I try to learn something new. The other piece is when I started with my son, that I use it from time to time because I'm a bit rusty in some of the areas. Like I'm not anymore that good in chemistry and chemistry equations, and it works with them as well. But again, 90% success rate, and you need to do a bit of checks. So I love doing it for knowledge building, for learning. So it's really happy to do that. In the company, for me, the capabilities that we have now with AI, they are really moving more in the direction of future of insurance. How is an insurance going to work in the future? How are we able to solve the big problems in insurance business? So this is where they will be solved by people, don't get me wrong, but they will be solved by people that are heavily augmented and supported with AI and analytic capabilities that we don't have today.
Yes, knowledge building, that's definitely a big use. I've also seen procurement, we are starting to use AI solutions for contract vetting, which is easier instead of having to go through some of those huge facility management contracts. If you get a way to summarize, that's really helpful. Personally, I also enjoy using it for this podcasting and it helps me generate videos. So a lot of work is automated. Editing is super simple thanks to AI. So yeah, it has lots of applications and
So
whether in our personal or
it
professional.
sounds like
Yeah.
I need to make an appointment for you to get some coaching in how to use AI for videos and so on, because that's something I've not done yet, but it's something which I'm eager to do eventually, because there are quite a lot of videos somewhere on my hard drive that I need
Oh,
to upgrade and update and prepare for my family at some point in time. So looking forward to learn a bit about what we can do here. That's a space, for example, I've not explored at all myself. So happy
yeah,
to
happy
take the
to.
learnings
Yeah,
here.
happy to, happy to. Okay, so let's switch gears. I'm going to ask a bit tougher question now. I know we talked about procurement and what you enjoy working with procurement on. Maybe this time, maybe I'll ask you, what if there was one thing you'd like to change about how procurement operates? What would that be?
Okay,
We can be pretty stuck in our ways too, Peter. So don't
no,
know.
we all can. We all can. It's just that I work now with several procurement organizations, so I try to find out which one is the easiest to take. I think I think the area that is sometimes a problem are these mandated paragraphs, and that's a combination of legal and procurement, where you have to put into a contract with a small vendor a huge fee if he makes a mistake. The vendor will go bankrupt if this fee comes, and yeah, maybe you can put it through, but that is not going to be a good basis. Yeah? And you put in, and then comes Microsoft or some other vendor, and there you can't put it in because it just will not accept it. So it's a bit of reality check when you create these things. What does it really mean? Yeah? And a bit more, do we really have one size fits all? Or are we ready? And at the end, we can negotiate and we find always a good way that protects us sufficiently and is still making a good deal happen. But it takes work, and it's almost always the same thing. Yeah? And all this type of sudden requests, we need to update all our contracts with this clause now because some topic is not. These are things that yeah, they are needed, but sometimes I'm feeling, yeah, we can do this in a better way, a bit more structured, a bit more pragmatic than we do it. Yeah, but that's the only piece here, that I see sometimes a bit of a worry.
Well, you're being generous, but thank you. I agree with you. I think we can be more pragmatic. I think that's the right word for it. In drafting some of those contracts and like also how we think about risk. That also varies a lot depending on geographies, industries. So yeah, lots of constraints to keep in mind.
This is where the insurance business comes in with insurances to protect your supply chain risk. So this is with simulations, AI augmented simulations. So this is how at some point in time, I would say there is going to be a bit of overlay between a procurement manager and also risk management, because at the end, if you go and think about your supply chain risk, you can handle this in a classic way via splitting the supply chain and separating into multiple vendors so we have backup. That's classic. But you can also do and try to simulate things like what's the likelihood of having earthquakes trying to destroy your supply chain, and how can you build resilience in that phase. Yeah? So these are key topics that my insurance company, the Zurich Insurance, is currently focusing a lot, and there's lots of traction for these type of things. So resilience, building resilience, establishing resilience is key, because that also means the risk goes down, and then the insurance, the ability to insure something is growing. So many small companies with lots of new technology are struggling to get insurance, because new technology is always high risk. We don't have enough data about it. It's unclear how it behaves. So, but if they're not getting insurance, they can't move forward. So that's an interesting challenge, and I guess procurement on their side will be in the middle of all these discussions.
Yeah, no, procurement, because we are at like the center between external and internal stakeholders, we get very exciting challenges. That's one thing that I have not missed out on in my career as well. But yeah, like I'm really like I did not know about this resilience aspect that you shared. That's very unique to insurance, I believe. Yeah.
It's something that is not every insurance company is doing that, because it requires investment upfront. You need to have the right skill set, because how can you talk to a manufacturer about resilience in his supply chain when you don't understand something about the supply chain? So it's there's or even the technology behind the supply chain, the traffic, the transportation around it. Yeah, but yeah, that is a growing business opportunity here also for us. But it's really something that will help to reduce the amount of risk that is not insured, which is still pretty high here. But okay, that was a bit too much about my current job in insurance, but it's a fascinating area. So I love that space, and I'm
Yeah.
quite happy with
It
that.
wasn't a but it wasn't a lot, but thank you. I know we're almost at time here, and it's always interesting to, get people that I know on the podcast, and I believe like, we end up having conversations that we wouldn't have otherwise, and I learned so many new things. But like before we wrap up, Peter, there's one more question that I'd like to ask you. There are a lot of people who are, following this podcast. They're keen to grow their careers in the fields of supply chain, IT, procurement, interface that all the interfaces that you've seen in your career. So it'll be great if we can hear some advice about like, people who are just starting out. What do they need to do if they want to grow in IT and data and analytics and supply chain, those areas.
Yeah, that is. I think there are a couple of elements here. The first one is, I'm a big fan that you should pursue something where you feel, and maybe some other people even confirmed, that you have talent, that you're really good in something. Um, in my case, it was mathematics, and I studied mathematics because I was always good. It could have been other scientists. I loved it. I was pretty good there, great marks. But at the end of the day, the decision was, the scientific career path is pretty cumbersome, and I wanted to earn some money. So you need to be flexible. It's nice that you have a good study, but you always need to be flexible. There may be other opportunities coming. So it's kind of, the environment is so dynamic. There are jobs that nobody knows that will be around in 2-3 years. So it boils down to make sure that you develop the skills that you're strong in even more. Try to see how this could fit into a career path that would be interesting for you. Yeah, it will be very vague at the beginning. Um, Try to make sure that you understand, are you interested more into really technology innovation, which is then very different from a skill set than really maximizing the value of technology. Uh,
Mhm.
One example, a data scientist that really wants to innovate something very new, yeah, needs to be much stronger in the theoretical part of data science, in the math, statistics. Does not need to be too interested in the industries, in the business. But if I want to be somebody that drives value in an insurance company, consumer goods company, I need to be interested in both. I need to be able to really have my act together technology wise. I don't need to be the master of the theories, but I need to do my job. and I need to be able to combine it with the business knowledge. So it depends. This is kind of for me one of the key segregation. I just was hiring for some data science roles, and I rejected a couple of people from Google because they were super smart. They did amazing things, but none of that would be required in my team and insurance company. They would not be happy there, and I think that's a segregation that needs to happen very early on. And the last piece I wanted to say is it's very important to really early on be aware of that EQ and IQ are equally relevant and important. That was the piece that I had to learn. I was always an IQ person at school, the nerdy guy. Cricket helped me to get better in EQ. And later on, most of my coaches were focusing on the EQ part. And I would recommend to all of the people that are studying, all the nerds, be aware that EQ is something that will be helping you in many areas. And it's worth to invest a bit of time in that. That would be my last recommendation here, yeah, and advice.
Awesome. That was such a well round up. I remember your advice on flexibility. You had offered me that advice long time back. I see your passion for what you do, and that just comes across because you're working in areas you're passionate about. That also helps. That ingrained passion also helps you to be open to learning new things, right? Like whether it's building knowledge or developing EQ. And thank you for being so transparent about it. This was so insightful. I really look forward to being in touch, and I'll share this with people. I'm sure like there'll be lots of people who'll be inspired by it. You might get in some LinkedIn requests. So thank you for your time.
Thanks for this great experience, and was really well prepared. Thank you.
Thank you.